unfortunately, links still matter for rankings. That's pretty straightforward. I think last year or a couple of years ago, Google actually tried to remove links from the algorithm and say there was the search engine was not ready. It was a disaster, and the results were actually way worse than they were. So I think links over time will get less and less value compared to, say, user engagement. But there's still something you need to look at. And as I mentioned early on, with Penguin being part of the main algorithm, you really want to strive for quality over quantity for the different links you're building. So again, back to basics, search engine judge you by your links, who you're connected with and how. Question on why people link to you. They know you or your favor. That's the obvious one. You've got a unique, interesting, engaging website. You link to their website in return. So you do an interview with someone, and they make mention of that interview. You provide content, so that's more the guest posting approach, but don't use it excessively. In May last year, Google added in their quality guideline that excessive use of guest posting is considered a spam technique. Financial incentives, put careful there. This is to be part of something bigger, but say, for example, you're sponsoring a meetup in your area, you're buying drinks, or your company is sponsoring some activities. So I've seen Airbnb do that. I live in Manly, Australia, and Airbnb is sponsoring the Surf Life Saving Club I'm part of, and they ended up being on the website and having a link to it. So don't do that just for links, but you might get value out of it as part of a broader community engagement. Obviously, if you make mention of people, you improve the profile and ego product. I remember the day Guy Kawasaki, the chief evangelist at Apple, and then Canva, basically started tweeting about an interview that Kirsty did with him. That was pretty cool. 3.5 million people getting a view of the article. I was happy. But basically, even the biggest guys can be invited to speak and can return the favor of giving you some visibility, some audience. Obviously, most relevant resources for us as when we do consulting with firms, data tools are the things that we're using now as our main solution to gain traction, especially for PR or just for resource link. If you solve people's answer with a tool, with calculators and things like that, or with the relevant up-to-date data, you're more likely to have something unique. And obviously, if you're the only or first person to talk about it, that you get the first mover advantage or famous trusted source like Wikipedia. And to be very clear, no, people won't link to your boring product category page. It's very hard to get links to the hotels in Sydney page for most online travel agencies or Meta or general aggregators, simply because they are transactional boring page. So that's something that if you push people to do that, the chances are the links that will be created will not be either relevant or good quality, and potentially people might end up doing some spammy approach to get links. So watch out for that. Make sure that you keep a close eye and consider that getting links to other pages might be more appropriate to build the authority as a whole. Link building is definitely an ongoing work. This is an example of a site worked with. It took over a year to get some traction, and we launched PR campaign, build base link, we get industry links, content to get links, and again go back to PR type. Now we have a bit more traction, visibility, etc., etc. So this is an ongoing battle. And some of the methods that I recommend using that are safe: get the target site's user involved in content creation. Gather and share data, which I think is great for PR. I've seen today that Google survey is rolling out to 50 different countries. That's a great way to quickly get some demographic research. News sites love using that. Again, build tools. That's what we've been doing at AMWT to get some traction. Another opportunity is reach to unlinked mentions. Sometimes that might turn into an opportunity, although I'll be talking about that in a second. That's a way to maximize visibility. Reach out to linklarity, so the people that do produce good content, whether they're journalists or bloggers, popular Redditors, so mods of relevant subreddits. Also get local links, as simple as that. School, sports center, meetups. I run a meetup here in Sydney. I'm sure if you say I shout the beers for the guys for this meetup, I'd happily put you as a sponsor for the meetup on my meetup page. That's a DA98 link for those of you that are obsessed with domain authority. And so long it's relevant to a niche, that could be something could be something worth considering. Have a look at what makes a link-worthy story, whether it's a timing thing, the reason to cover, if it's a new or unique information because no one else has it, if there's a purpose, if there's a greater value to behind what you're doing. Getting an authority profile is very important. We've done that with a number of teammates where we've built the authority over time. We get them to write a bunch of content initially on client sites, and then we encourage people to go and pitch to second tier publications and get some stories published. You don't have to even link to it. It's just to build your profile as a writer in that particular field, in that particular industry. And from there, you have writing examples, you have examples on third-party websites, and from there you can get better and better publications. So some of us got published on Engadget, Entrepreneur, Forbes, HuffPost, Resin Carrierist, AOL, Chicago Tribune, so things like that. And they're not, the people that got published and get those great mentions, they're not necessarily journalists by profession. Most of them are content producers, content writers initially, but with a bit of practice and enough background and profile, you can get to those levels consistent. And Kirsty will have far more experience to talk about that, but I think I'm running out of time, so I'll move on. What are you, in terms of what you're asking them to link? Make sure you offer something that makes sense to link to, that respond to their news agenda. Be sure to be personable, and work with the relevant experts. So if you say, I'm Joe Blow and I've got a great article on Bitcoin, and you send that to the random IFR journalist, you can be sure that it's not going to go very far. However, if you, I've worked with money.co.uk, and I've worked with Professor XYZ of University of Lancashire, and I'm writing to John Andrews, who is a specialist in cryptocurrency in the Financial Times in London, then you've got a far greater chance to get in front of that person especially if you already stalk them and engage with them on Twitter and other social media. So something worth considering. Again, it's basic human behavior in terms of how you're going to get, you're asking someone for a favor, see what you can do first before you asking them to do something. So that was for links. One cool thing, and I'm hoping that will become a reality soon. It's already the case for Bing. But it's the idea of linkless mentions. So that becomes more akin to branding exercise. But basically, Google, so Bing is doing that, and Google hopefully are doing that soon. If you get your name out there, if you get your brand name out there, without necessarily receiving an hyperlink, Google might still see that and counts that towards your profile, because it's a mention, it's a vote of confidence. They're talking about it, provided that it's in the positive light. They're talking about your company or your brand. So that's a way to get visibility and authority signals. Again, if nobody talks about you, but they only link to you, that will be the kind of things that Google and Bing will certainly be looking at in terms of, it's interesting. They're really over-optimizing the links, but nobody is really talking about that brand. How come? So have a think about the different elements of that now search engines have to determine whether a brand is relevant and their trust signals, their ranking signals, is actually coherent across the board. Because if you are over-optimized in getting links, but nothing about branding and mentions and stories, well, especially if it's not in your field, then the chances are search engines will look at it and say, there's something weird. There's something not quite right. And again, something that is not often said in the industry, not enough said in the industry, is Google does not understand quality. They understand patterns of quality. So if you think you're going to beat an algorithm at identifying patterns, that might be a bit difficult, especially considering the amount of data they're processing. So what are the kind of things you look into? Other elements, my recommendation is going in channel diversification. So video, social, and content aggregators. So for example, you can target different video, different audience and push that across adverts, in-stream or online learning if you have something a bit more complex. Make sure you put your brand on Facebook. Video SEO has elements of standard SEO. I won't go into the details, but certainly worth doing it. That was the case 2 years ago, and it keeps on getting bigger and bigger. Have a look at, make sure you can reutilize that across Facebook due to the lead engagement we're seeing. And again, Facebook is a pay-for-play environment, but still worth considering. Other aspects, those content aggregators like Flipboard are really relevant, and they're getting, apparently they're getting monthly active users, they're getting over 100 million monthly active users, and getting more and more traction. Another one is Medium, where you can still get some authority value by being present on a popular publishing platform. And according to SimilarWeb, they've got about 75 million monthly unique visitors. So certainly worth considering. Others are, make sure you get your content to go native on Android and iOS. When I'm bored, I'll just click and flick on the Google News that I see on my Android. Again, an opportunity to get visible. Same thing with Feedly as well. You can just publish the RSS and be done, or you might want to tweak a few more things, get the right hashtags and things like that, and be more discoverable. Certainly, travel is a big sector in Feedly.